raise a family, they have some of the same opportunities that me and my wife.
You agreed that we need to see them as a terrorist organization.
On a private cloud server, yes or no?
To love country, to love God, and to try to do the right thing.
Worked for the nation and the interests of the people.
Welcome back to the Fresh Freedom Podcast, a podcast of 5 freedom-loving freshman members of Congress, where you get a backstage pass to what we're experiencing. I'm Eric Burleson from Missouri, and I'm joined by my friends Josh Burkeen from Oklahoma, Eli Crane from Arizona, and Andy Ogles from Tennessee. And our special guest today is someone who has been at the tip of the spear of conservative fights for the past decade or more, Mark Meadows.
Hey, it's great.
Welcome.
No, it's great to be with. Listen, you guys are my heroes.
Oh, please.
No, I'm serious. You know, when you've been in D.C. as long as I have, what happens is that you know that everything starts squishing to the middle or to the left. You know, kind of like a jelly donut. You know, and so you know, as you look at that, probably the biggest thing for me is that you guys are willing to be in the fight, and so God bless you. And I'm just excited to see. You know, this is an interesting time. I mean, depending on when you're viewing this or listening to this, you know, y'all are in the middle of a fight for the appropriations process, which will probably lead to a shutdown in less than 4 or 5 days, and so in doing so, you're trying to change Washington D.C. So. Kudos to you.
Mark, would you talk through historically, though? I mean, the cake was baked when we didn't spend June, July, really getting those 12 appropriation bills out. And so I don't want to go there if you're not ready, but what used to happen? What's happened to what used to be a body that functioned and spent the summer?
Well, it hadn't functioned in a decade, so let's just be clear about that. And I think that's part of why you're in this fight. You're saying enough is enough. We can't continue to do things the way that we've always done them. But the other part of that, I think, that is critically important is that you're right. We should have worked through August. We should have passed the appropriations bills. Normally, they should be done by July when you leave for your August work period back home. But that didn't happen. And worse than that is nothing happened during the month of August. So here we are backed up to it. So I can predict that they're wanting a CR. You know, it was 30 days. They'll expand that to 40 to 50 days. They'll back it up against Thanksgiving. Then they'll say they almost got it done. They just need a little bit more time. They'll back that up to December 14th, 15th, so that people are wanting to get out for Christmas. And everybody, all of a sudden, they lose their courage, their political will, but it's time to stand up.
I got a question on that, Mark. Being obviously a freshman up here, you're learning a lot, but there's a part of me that doesn't really think they want to get the appropriations bills done. What are your thoughts on whether or not leadership wants to get them done?
Well, everything in this town is set to not do the appropriations process.
So can you tell the American people why?
Yeah, so I think, you know, from their standpoint, they've got all their things baked in. And if they have a continuing resolution that continues spending, for those of you at home that maybe a CR or continuing resolution is news to you, all their priorities are stuck in there, and they say if we can just keep that going, we're in a good place. So, but they don't really just want a CR. They want a CR that actually increases spending and doesn't decrease it. And so in doing so, it allows for 4 people to control what's going on. None of the appropriators. The appropriators used to be some of the most powerful people in D.C. They're not powerful anymore. It's Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell, now Hakeem Jeffries, and Speaker McCarthy. And so the 4 of them get their staff together, they figure it all out, and then they say, we've run out of time, or there's not the votes. We've already heard about there not being the votes.
But Mark, if the country's $33 trillion in debt, and every year we run a $2 trillion deficit, why wouldn't they want to do appropriations bills and actually cut some of the spending like the American people expect us to do and like they're required to do in their own personal lives?
Well, there's two types of people in D.C. who like to spend money. Democrats and Republicans. Yeah. And so, I mean, so when you look at that, this is all about spending. They believe that you run the credit card up, that someone else is going to pay the bill. Sadly, the deficit, just continues to skyrocket over and over again. But listen, we bankrupt our country already. But the sad part about it is most people will not put forth the political courage to stand up for what is wrong here. And they'll say to you, because all four of you are freshmen, well, when you've been here a little time, you'll understand what it is to govern.
Or how good this deal is.
Well, let me just tell you, nobody's governed in over a decade here in Congress.
Well, and I just want to go back and hit home to the point that when you work backwards from the calendar, as you said, like we should have been finished or almost finished with appropriations process at the end of July. And a real leader would have said, look, folks, guys, gals, we're not done. And if you don't get done, I'm going to hold you over for that first week of August. Yep. And if at the end of the first week of August, a real leader would have said, you know what, I'm going to hold you over another week and we're going to get this done. Because in January, during the speaker's fight, we made a promise to the American people that we would change how Washington governs, that we would pass 12 appropriations bills. And I'm a hard no on any continuing resolution until we pass 12 appropriations bills.
And at a certain level as well. Don't leave that part out too. It wasn't
like
just 12 appropriations bills, it was at a certain level.
Right?
Yeah.
And so enough is enough.
This whole narrative was baked in when the debt ceiling deal got done with President Biden and the others. I mean, it was baked in at that particular point because numbers were set, expectations were set, and yet at the same time, I believe that if the four of you and others like you will continue to say, we've got to fix it, it's painful. Let me just tell you. You've already been disinvited to all kinds of dinners and cocktail parties, and but you'll be beloved back home in in your respective states.
Yeah. Well, to that point,
and you laugh because you say you've been disinvited. You all know that you've been disinvited.
Well, we polled my district, and overwhelmingly, people get the fact that Washington is dysfunctional. And that something needs to change. They may not be able to articulate what that change is, but something has to change. And the overwhelming response is, shut it down.
So let me just say this. Today, I'm the sorbet before the entree. You got Michael Knowles coming in here who
is that what they call that? The sorbet.
I'm the sorbet before the entree. Yeah, and the good thing about him is he'll bring a little energy. And he talks a little faster than I do too. So, as you talk about these important topics with him, he's got his finger on the pulse. The people back home know what he's about. But the other is the people back home are starting to understand what all of you are about. Mm-hmm. And for me, you've said it. Courage is contagious. Yep. So keep being courageous.
Thank you.
Amen.
God bless Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for being a fighter for decades for conservatives in the conservative movement. We appreciate your mentorship and we're praying for you.
Well, thank you. I feel it. I appreciate it. God bless you.
Thank you. And that wraps it up for this episode of the Fresh Freedom Podcast. If you like this show, please like and subscribe, share it with your friends. And until next time, we'll see you on the Fresh Freedom Podcast.